This is a full tutorial of my arrangement of Oh Freedom. If you'd like to hear the playthrough, check the link in the description. This is for fingerstyle guitar, and I wrote this arrangement for the intermediate to late intermediate player. With that in mind, I'm going to assume you know all of the open chords in the arrangement, although I will go over any alterations to those chords, as well as any movable chords. This arrangement starts out with a very free tempo. It's marked with strength, freely, and you want to make sure that your melody is ringing over your chords. Let's take a look at measures 1 through 4. So we start off with this C5, just this low C, and then your G melody note on the 3rd string. While you're playing your melody note, you want to make sure that your 3rd finger stays down on that C, so you keep a bass note sustaining underneath, and then 2nd finger down on this A. Next measure, have a couple 8th notes in the melody, and you want to make sure you are keeping your lower notes ringing as well. Play this G5 with fingers 3 and 4. We're going to need finger 1 in the next measure. So that's 3, open, and 4. So you play your G5. While you are playing this open E on beat 4, keep finger 4 down because you're going to go right back to that finger in the next measure. On this C5. Now our melody there is D to C. So if your 4th finger is down from the previous measure, you're good to go. And then just lift your pinky up to play the C. And then these last 2 notes in the bass lead to measures 5 through 8. So in measure 5, we have an A minor chord, but it's not your full A minor. I'm just playing this with fingers 1 and 2. And I'm leaving the 4th string alone. And notice we have a little squiggly line next to that chord. That just means that you're either going to do a strum or a more exaggerated finger roll. In this case, we have to do a finger roll because we don't want to strum that 4th string. So with fingers 1 and 2 down from this A minor, in the next measure, measure 6, just slide fingers 1 and 2 over for this little double stop on the B and the D. So there's your A minor, slide fingers over, and then slide them back for this A and C with fingers 1 and 2, same strings. And then keep finger 1 down, play 1st string open, so you're playing strings 1 and 2 here. Then you have a little tiny G5, 4th finger on this D. Let that ring for 4 beats, and then 3rd finger on that low G. And then the next 2 notes lead to measures 9 through 12. So measure 9, we have a C chord with melody on string 1. We have one of those little wavy lines for a finger roll or a strum. In this case, it's going to be a finger roll because, again, we are not playing string 4. I do have my 2nd finger down on this 4th string. I think it's just sort of a habit. If I see a C chord, I'm just going to put that finger down. But we're only playing strings 5 and then 3, 2, and 1. So that C becomes a C7 in measure 10. So just put your pinky down for that B flat on 3rd fret, 3rd string. Keep your 1st finger down while you play this D and C on beats 3 and 4. Play that D with finger 4. Now if you've left your 1st finger down, all you have to do to play the C is lift your pinky up. And then we have a small F chord. This is based on just 3 notes of your 4-string F chord, fingers 3, 2, and 1. Although we are putting finger 4 down on the D on the 3rd fret, 2nd string at the beginning of this measure because that's our melody note. But go ahead and leave finger 1 down from the previous measure because you're going to need it on beat 2. So there's our little tiny F chord with a D added. Lift your pinky, and now you have your C, and then we have an A on beat 4. That is part of the little tiny F chord. So once you've lifted your pinky of your left hand, you don't have to move any fingers through the rest of that measure. Then we move to a big old F sharp diminished 7 chord. This is fingers 2, 1, 3, and 1. So finger 1 is barring strings 2 through 4. And make sure you're not playing string 5 there. The last 2 notes of this measure belong to that F sharp diminished 7, so go ahead and keep that whole chord down, and then just play the 3rd string, and that leads to measures 13 through 16. Those last 3 notes of measure 16 are a walk up into measure 17 in the next section. We're going to talk about that in just a minute, but first let's look at measure 13. In measure 13, we just have 3 notes of a C chord with our melody note on string 3 open, and then put your first finger down for these 2 C's. Here's our little 2-finger A minor chord again with one of those little squiggles showing that we're going to do a finger roll. And then keep first finger down here. You're going to play D, C, D. If your first finger's down on the C, then all you have to do is lift your 4th finger up and down to play the D, C, and D. And then we have a little 3-string F chord again. This time the D is not added with the pinky, it's just your F, A, and a C. With a little bass walk down on the 4th string, 2nd fret E, and then open 4th string, and then a C chord with the melody on string 2. So make sure you only play as high as string 2. That C chord has a fermata above it. That just means you hold it for a while. And then there's 2 slashes right after that chord. That is called a caesura, and that means you put a little pause in the action. You play your chord, hold it for a while, pause, and then you play those walk-up notes. Those walk-up notes are low G, A, and B. And we're going into a new tempo in measure 17. The tempo is about kind of a medium swing, so you want to make sure you play those walk-up notes in the same tempo as the new tempo. Even though measure 17 is a faster tempo, in this lesson we're going to play it very slowly. If you want to hear it full speed, go ahead and check the demo. So after playing those 3 walk-up bass notes, we're in measure 17 through 20. So we have a lot more action in the bass notes here. Your bass note has a lot of dotted quarter and 8th figures. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 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 While your melody is floating up above. One thing that can make the counting of these sections easier is to think of the composite rhythm. That'll be the combined rhythm of your thumb versus your finger notes. For example, in measure 17, your thumb or your bass is going 1, 2, and 3, 4, while your melody and a little harmony note are going 1, 2, 3, 4. That entire rhythm all together, or your composite rhythm, 1, 2, and 3, 4. Moving to the next measure, measure 18, we have our bass going 1, 2, and 3, 4, with our fingers going 1 and 2, 3, 4. Put all that together, you have 1 and 2 and 3, 4. And I like to play that last little double stop short just for style. And 3, 4. So just cut those off. We move to a G over B. I suggest playing this with fingers 2 and 4 because you're going to need your first finger in the next measure. So our composite rhythm here with the bass, 1, 2, and 3, 4. Now on beat 4, you play that open E. Keep your fourth finger down on the D because in the next measure, we need it in the melody note. The next measure is based on a C chord. So your bass is going 1, 2, and 3, 4, moving to that low B, 2nd fret, 5th string on beat 4. And your melody is going 1 and then just holding. Your composite rhythm, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. And that leads to measures 21 through 24. So measure 21, we have that small A minor chord, again, just those 2 fingers of an A minor chord, while your bass is going 1, 2, and 3, 4. On beat 4, you're playing that open E, 1, 2, and 3, 4. Measure 22, we move to a D7, but it's not your typical open D7 chord. This D7 is shaped exactly like a C7, only you're playing just the middle 4 strings, no open strings, which makes it movable. Move it up 2 frets, so your root note is on this D at the 5th fret, 5th string. Now you have a D7. You're playing that entire 4-string D7 on beat 1. On beat 2, you're playing a C note, which you are already playing with your finger, with your pinky, so you don't have to move any fingers to play that C. And then your bass is playing on the and of 1. And then you play your bass note and this open E on the 1st string together on beat 3. Our composite rhythm there is 1, 2, and 3, 4. Now one thing that'll make it easier to get to the D7 chord is notice the note right before that open E, well, it's an open note. You can take advantage of the fact that it's an open note and move to the D7 while you play that. So moving back to measure 21, the A minor, we have 1, 2, and 3. Move here while you play the E to your special D7 chord. 1, 2, and 3, 4. And then we have a G chord, but it's not your open G chord. This is your major bar chord with the root on the 6th string. Your melody is just kind of holding there for 4 beats, while your bass plays 1, 2, and 3, 4. So beats 3 and 4 are on string 5. 1, 2, and 3, 4. And then measure 24, we move to a G7 chord, but again, not our open G7. All you have to do to get this to this movable G7 is take the G chord that you're playing in the measure before, remove fingers 3 and 4, so you're just playing with fingers 1, which is barring, and then finger 2. Don't worry about string 5 because we're not playing that string. And we have a movable G7 chord. Now, if you were to strum this one, you would want to put your 3rd finger down here, 2 frets to the right of your 6th string root. But again, we don't need that because we're playing fingerstyle. Now our composite rhythm there in measure 24. Your bass is playing on beat 1. You're playing your finger notes on the and of 1. And then you're playing a bass note on beat 2. Your composite rhythm, 1 and 2. Again, that's 1 and 2. Then we have some double stops to end this measure. We have a low A and a C with 1st finger, and then a B and a D. Play the B with your 2nd finger, the D with your 4th finger. And I like to play those double stops short just for style. So you can hear that style if I just go to where the G chord is, measure 23. Short here, just for style. That leads to measures 25 through 28. So measure 25. We have a C chord, and you're just playing strings 1, 2, 3, quarter notes, while your bass or your thumb is playing 1, 2, and 3, 4. Composite rhythm, 1, 2, and 3, 4. Moving to a C7 chord, your melody is holding for 2 beats while you play a couple quarter notes with your bass. Then some double stops, octave Ds. I like to play this D with my 4th finger on the 3rd fret, 2nd string, and then fingers 2 and 1 on this E and C. So we have, here's a little tiny F chord that we played before in measure 11. Again, fingers 1, 2, 3 of an F chord, no need to bar. We are putting our pinky down on the D first. So keep your first finger down from the C7 in the previous measure. So all you have to do to get to the C is lift your pinky. Then your bass is playing on the and of 2. And then you're playing your bass note and your C together. And then just an A, composite rhythm there. 1, 2, and 3, 4. And then we have that big old F sharp diminished 7 chord that we played earlier. Now these last 3 notes in this measure do belong to that F sharp diminished 7, but notice there is a rest underneath that. In other words, we don't want to hear any other notes than the A and the C and the A. So while you could keep your fingers down, you want to prevent any other strings from sounding. So I like to play those 3 notes without holding the chord, just fingers 2, 1, 2. And that leads to measures 29 through 32. So measure 29, 3 notes of a C chord, just your C, E, and your G, with your G on the 3rd string open. Your bass is holding, and you play a couple quarter note Gs. Then you play a low B, which is just holding, and you play a couple quarter note Cs with your first finger. Then we have that 2-finger A minor chord again. This time your fingers are holding, but your thumb note, your bass note, is playing a couple quarter note low A's. And then keep your first finger down from the A minor chord when you move to this G over B. So G over B will be with fingers 2 and 4, just as before. If you keep your first finger down from the A minor chord, it's pretty easy to go D, C, D, as we've done earlier in the arrangement. And then measure 31. So we have a C chord. You want to keep your octave C's ringing, your bass and your melody note, while we play some stuff in the middle of all that on strings 3 and 4. So keep fingers 1 and 3 down, replay strings 3 and 4 on beat 2. For this F chord, keep fingers 1 and 3 down still. You're going to play this F and A with fingers 2 and 4. So here's your C chord. Here's moving to the F chord. And then we move back to the C chord. Right there. So here's measure 31 again. I like to play that last chord short just for style. And then these notes lead to measures 33 through 36. For most of this next section, the melody notes lead off, and then the bass notes and some chords do some answering. So let's look at measures 33 through 36. So measure 33 begins with a C chord, but you're not playing the whole chord. Matter of fact, you start off with just the melody note, open G on the 3rd string, and then some chords answer, just this low C and E. So your melody is playing 1, 2, 3, 4. Your chords are 1, 2, and put those rhythms together for your composite rhythm. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Next measure starts off with a melody again, 1 and then it just holds through the rest of the measure. Your chords come in on beat 2, so 1, 2, and 3, 4. And I like to play that chord short at the end just for style. Composite rhythm, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Let me do measures 33 and 34 again so you can hear that together. Then we move to a G over B chord. Again, you're starting off with just the melody. Play this melody note with your 4th finger and put your 2nd finger on the bass note on the 5th string, 2nd fret. So your melody is playing 1, 2, 3, 4, then playing an open E on beat 4. You want to make sure you keep your 4th finger down while you play that open E because you're going to need that 4th finger right at the beginning of the next measure. Now your chords are answering, so we have 1, 2, and 3, 4, keeping your 4th finger down on that D. Next measure, we play D, C. So if your 4th finger's already down, you're good to go. And then just plop your 1st finger down on that C, 2nd string, 1st fret. And again, your chords are answering, 1, and 2, and 3, 4. And again, for style, I like to play that last chord short. Here's from the G over B again. That leads to measures 37 through 40. So measure 37 begins with an A minor chord, not the 2-finger A minor chord we've been playing through this arrangement, but the full A minor chord. It does start off with just the melody though. 1, 2, 3, 4. So just some open E's there while the chords answer. 1, 2, and 3, 4. And then we move to that D7 chord that we played before that's shaped like a C7 chord. And as before, while you're playing the open E, go ahead and move on over to your D7 chord. We play all 4 strings of that D7 chord on beat 1. On beat 2, we play the C, which your pinky is already down on the 3rd string. And then we move back to an open E, a G, and an open E again. Then play this G over B with fingers 2 and 4 as we've been doing. All the fingers just play at once there, including your thumb. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1. So those bass notes on the 5th string we have open, 2, and then open. And then on beat 1 of the next measure we have this low G. Go ahead and play that with your 3rd finger. Hold it as long as you can. You are going to have to let go of that note at some point because we're going to be moving up the fretboard slightly. So you play 1 and 2, 3, 4. So right after that low G on the and of 1, you play this double stop, open 2nd and 3rd string. And then we have another double stop, this A and C with fingers 1 and 2. And then we have another double stop, this B and D, also with fingers 1 and 2. So just take fingers 1 and 2 from the A and the C, move them up 2 frets, and you have your double stop there. And then our composite rhythm with that first double stop coming on the and of 1 is 1 and 2, 3, 4. And I like to play those last 2 double stops short just for style. And that leads to measures 41 through 44. Measure 41, this is more of a shout chorus now with everything all being played at the same time. C chord, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. So we have C chords, 1, 2, 3, and. Then there's a rest on beat 4, so make sure you cut that last chord short. And then on the and of 4, just plop your pinky down for a C7 chord. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2. Keep your first finger down here. You're going to play 2 Ds and a C. And if your first finger's down from the C7, then you're good to go. Just have to lift your pinky. Measure 43, we have a big ol' F chord, although technically it's an F6 at the very beginning because of that D melody note. Our fingering here is 1, 3, 2, and 4. We're playing strings 6, 5, 3, and 2. But go ahead and bar with your first finger because we're going to need that C at the first fret second string on beat 2. So here's our first beat of measure 43. Second beat, now it does become an F chord, not an F6, because we're lifting the pinky. And if you're barring, then you already have that C down. And that A that I just played, that's also part of the F chord. So once you lift your pinky here, you don't have to move any fingers for your left hand for a little bit until you get to this F sharp diminished 7 chord. Same big old F sharp diminished 7 we've been playing. And make sure when you play the and of 3 in this measure, that A, cut it short so we can get to the and of 4 on the F sharp diminished. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. And then this A and A flat on frets 2 and 1 lead to measures 45 through 48. Couple lead-in notes to the next section. So measure 45, we have a C chord. We start off with just the open third string, and then your low C and E answering. And on beat 3 and 4, put your first finger down for those 2 Cs. A composite rhythm is just on every beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to be the full A minor chord again, although you are starting off with just the first string open, that E. So 1. On beat 2, you play the rest of the A minor chord. So 1, 2, keep your first finger down. You're going to play 4, 1, 4, with 4 being on that D, third fret of the second string. If your first finger is down, then all you have to do is lift your pinky up and down. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we have the same move you did in measures 31 through 32, where you're playing, holding the octave Cs while you play those 2 middle strings, finger 2 and 4 here, keeping fingers 1 and 3 down, and then back to a C chord. And as I mentioned, these 2 notes, the C and the D, lead to measures 49 through 52. 49 through 52 are similar to the beginning, where it's nice and free. Measure 49 is identical to measure 9. So C chord, we've got that little finger roll or strum indication. In this case, it's got to be a finger roll because we're not playing the 4th string. Measure 50 here is just like measure 10. Going to a C7, use your 4th finger on this D, but keep your first finger down. Now we're going to that big old F chord that's really an F6 chord at the beginning, just like we did in measure 43. Lift your pinky up so you can play that C. This A right here is part of that chord. We go to that big old F sharp diminished again. And then these 2 notes are part of the F sharp diminished. And then we're moving to measures 53 to the end. Measure 53 is a C chord, just 3 strings of a C chord, melody note on the open 3rd string. Put your first finger down for these 2 Cs. Now we're back to our little 2-finger A minor chord again with a finger roll. And as we've been doing all along, keep your first finger down, play 4, 1, 4, little 3-string F chord, just fingers 3, 2, 1 on strings 2, 3, and 4. And then a little walk down, fret 2 on the 4th string, and open 4th string, moving to a C chord at the end. There's a fermata over that, so you hold it as long as you like. And this time, if you like, instead of doing a finger roll, you could do a strum, because we're playing all adjacent strings. If you do a strum, just make sure you only play as far as that 2nd string, because that's our melody note. One thing that can help with that is just do a rest stroke. Strum, and then rest your thumb or whatever digit you're strumming with on the 1st string. And because of the fermata, hold that as long as you like. To order a copy of this arrangement, check the link in the description. And for more guitar lessons and arrangements, please subscribe.